Well, John, thanks for coming by. I've been looking forward to speaking with you for a while. Thanks for making the time.
Oh, sure, no problem.
John, before at the very beginning, I just wanted to mention to you and get your clarification. Uh, as you may know, I spent quite a bit of time meeting the folks that President Reagan knew, and one of the most interesting conversations I had was one of the fellows who, when President Reagan came back to his church after 8 years of being in Washington D.C., he was they required him to rejoin the church and take the church membership class again, if you can believe that, is Pastor Don Muma. And one of the people in that circle, the new membership class, said that President Reagan had told the group that he had met with you in person to forgive you. And of course, I'd never heard that before. And so when I first heard that, just for context, I went to Mrs. Reagan's camp. They said no. John Barletta, the Secret Service agent, he said no. And I actually checked with the head of St. Elizabeth's, and he said that President Reagan had asked him if he could, and he had said, please don't do that. But I just would love to hear, you're the only person that would know. Did that ever happen?
No, but yeah, St. Elizabeth's blocked it. President Reagan did want to meet with me, and unfortunately, St. Elizabeth's blocked it. I think it would have been a good meeting.
That's fascinating. That's real news. It's the head of the hospital at the time. I don't recall his name. You probably know him. But he had said that he told the president, it would, please don't do it. It would set a terrible precedent. But he told me, look at, he's the president. He can do whatever he wants. He might have done it behind my back, but you're saying it never happened.
No, it never happened.
What do you think that meeting like that how would that have gone? How would that have been for you? What would that have felt like for you to have had that meeting?
It would have gone well. I never disliked Reagan. I always had great respect for him. Even, on the day when what I did, I liked him. So the meeting, if I had had a meeting with him, sure, it would have gone very well. I would have been very respectful of him.
Yeah, that's something that people don't understand, is it? That this was not a personal animus you had for him. In fact, you had tried the same thing with President Carter, I believe, earlier as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I never had any animus at all towards President Reagan.
And your family were sort of Reagan supporters, right?
They were big Reagan supporters. My father just loved Reagan, and the night Reagan was elected in 1980, my father was just elated.
Yeah. Well, I've had the chance to read your book. Of course, you have a brand new book that's been out, is out there. And I'd also read your parents' book over the years. Previously, they had written a book as well. But I know it must be frustrating for you to have to answer the same questions over and over again. But is there any, I guess my biggest question is, what was the possible outcome that you hoped for? I mean, I think even though you were, you were in perhaps a delusional state, you still were thinking rationally enough to, travel and make plans and make hotel reservations and such. But what was the outcome you were hoping for? Because clearly you knew you might be killed that day, or you might go to jail. But neither of those outcomes really would lead to a Jodie Foster, engagement. So help me understand. I'm trying to figure that out. What was the possible outcome?
I wanted to have like this union with Jodie Foster and live the rest of my life with her and all these things. That of course were delusional, but I was believing those things at that time. So the best outcome would have been, to have this kind of union with Jodie Foster.
You mean like maybe in the next life or something?
No, in this life.
In this life. But you had watched Mark David Chapman, go to jail. So you knew that would come. Did you think that she would join you there, or help me I'm just trying to figure that out.
I thought she would, after things settled down, join me wherever I was. I wasn't sure if I was going to be in jail or hospital or what, but after things settled down, I had this notion that she was going to join me wherever I was.
Interesting. And that day, I just would love to hear. By the way, we constructed for the film the wall, of the hotel. So many things just kind of came together that day. I think you were there pretty randomly. You happened to be staying nearby. What's your thought process about just the way it all came together Do you see, a divine hand protecting, or do you see randomness or chaos, or how do you see it?
I just see it as a fateful thing for what happened because I just took a taxi cab up to the Washington Hilton, and I saw a little crowd had gathered at a certain spot, so I joined the crowd, and it was media people, and I knew that was the right place to be, and so that's where I just stood in the crowd. I wasn't ever approached by any Secret Service agent or anything. I mean, I'm sure things now are much different, but in 1981, I just was able to stand there, and nobody was even paying attention to me.
And you also got very close to President Carter in the campaign, right?
Right.
Was that in Nashville?
That was in Dayton, Ohio.
Nashville's where you got caught. They found the gun.
Yeah, I mean, October 2nd, 80, I was in Dayton when Carter was there campaigning. The next week, October 9th, I was in Nashville, and yeah, I was rushing to get to the airport and get on the plane. They put my bags through the metal detector unbeknownst to me. And of course, these three guns showed up, so I was arrested there at the airport.
It's incredible. I think there's a photograph of you in the same shot with President Carter, right? The same photograph.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So really, you were an equal opportunity person. You were not, you didn't have political motives. You just wanted to kind of get your name out there and impress her. And that brings us back to Taxi Driver, of course. How responsible is the movie for for what happened? Do you hold them responsible for influencing you, or how do you see all that?
Well, Taxi Driver influenced me very much. I wouldn't use the term hold them responsible, but yeah, Taxi Driver influenced me greatly. And Jodie, of course, being in the movie was all part of the why it influenced me so much. But up until the very end, I was kind of thinking in some ways I was the character of Taxi Driver.
Right. Travis Bickle, right?
Right, Travis Bickle.
And you were sort of playing out that scenario, that similar scenario to what he had.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I find it fascinating. I don't know if President Carter understood how close he was, but what was the reason that the Carter, it didn't work out for President Carter, not to work out, but that you weren't able to take him out that day?
I wasn't armed. I didn't have a gun with me.
I see. So you would have been stopped probably if you'd had one?
Um, I'm not sure what would have happened, but that day that I was in front of Carter, I did not have a gun.
Got it. And what your parents obviously were supporters of President. I think your father had some ties maybe to George Herbert Walker Bush, so they were kind of Republican, and I believe they were also very religious, right?
Oh yes, very much so.
Is there any? Do you have any explanation? I think you have a brother and sister, I believe. Do you have any explanation for the path you went down in terms of just your mental issues at the time? How do you trace it to anything in particular?
I just became mentally ill in my late teens, early 20s, and I pushed my family away. They didn't push me away; I pushed them away, and I became greatly depressed and delusional, and that's why it led to the tragedy that it did.
Got it. And but there was no particular incident that started things or anything like that.
Not with my family, no. It was just mainly seeing Taxi Driver, and then just going down into mental illness.
So that was really the catalyst, would you say, the film?
Right, but the Taxi Driver came out in 1976, so it was another 5 years
Hmm.
of just having that in my head.
Wow.
Yeah.
But there really is no mental illness in your family, though, right? So it's hard to figure out where it all started. There's nothing that you can pinpoint besides that.
No, later on in life, my father did develop depression, but not during my growing up years.
Yeah. Well, everything that I've read about your parents and your mother, especially, she seemed like a very, very nice person and very understanding and always there to help you. And of course, she lived with you to the very end, didn't she?
Yes, I was her caregiver for the last 5 years of her life.
What do you think the greatest misunderstanding people have about you is, John?
That I'm not a changed person, that I'm still the way I was in 1981, and that's the reason I wrote the book, is to show people that I'm far different from the person I was in 1981. There's been such a negative image of me over the years. And I'm hoping that if people read the book, they'll see that I'm just so different from that person I was in 1981.
45 years, 45 years since that moment. I know that you've had, I think you mentioned in the book that Mike Reagan had sort of accepted or forgiven you. Can you speak to that at all?
I don't know who told me or where I came to the knowledge of it, but I had heard that Michael Reagan, you know, would not mind if I got released.
I see.
Yeah, I mean the rest of the family was very much opposed to it, but Michael Reagan seemed to be for it.
Yeah. Now you obviously you pleaded, mental illness issues. Were you? What was your life like inside the St. Elizabeth's all those years?
Good and bad. I mean, just so many years. I did 35, 34, 35 years at St. Elizabeth, so a lot went on in those 35 years. Good stuff, bad stuff, but I survived. That's the main thing. I survived all the bad stuff that happened there. This is a mental hospital, so you can just imagine how difficult it was being there for 35 years.
Were there ever any encounters with others in the hospital? Did they say, how could you do that, or go get them, or I mean, was there any pros, not pros, but what was the reaction from folks inside that you were there with?
Well, when I first arrived there in 1982, right after my trial, everybody was just in awe of me because I was so famous. I was on TV every day, and the patients would see me on TV, and I'd be sitting there right with them, and they just were just in awe of the whole thing. And of course, that wore off over the years, but early on, yeah, I was really a spectacle.
Now, you obviously couldn't vote after that, correct?
Actually, I think I could have because I was not convicted of anything, but I did not vote.
If you could have, who would you have voted for in '84?
Reagan was running against who?
Mondale.
Oh, Reagan. Reagan.
Okay. And I'd noticed in Reagan's memoir that he said, or maybe it was in an interview, he said that on the operating table, he had the sense that if he needed to forgive you, and if he didn't forgive you, he wouldn't recover, or that his recovery was tied to forgiving you. So he took a moment on the operating table to forgive you. Had you heard that, and how does that strike you?
No, I had not heard that, but it just sounds something that Reagan would say or think because he was, in my opinion, a really, really gracious person.
Interesting. And, there's different schools of thought with President Reagan. Some people say that without him, the Cold War would not have ended. The Soviet Union would still exist. Others say that he brought about its demise. First of all, do you have an opinion on that? And yeah, do you have an opinion on that?
I think, yeah, the Cold War might still be going on if Reagan had not intervened and, gotten this good thing going with Gorbachev and tear down this wall and all that stuff he did. I mean, who knows? The Cold War may still be going on.
Which means that your role in history is even more pivotal. Without, had you been successful, we would be in a different world as well. You see it?
I think so, yeah.
What about that bullet that day? I mean, I just find it remarkable, the trajectory of that bullet. It's the craziest thing you've ever heard of, that it bounces off the limo, goes through that space that's in between the car doors, and then ricochets off his rib. I've heard the story directly from Dr. Benjamin Aaron, who operated on the president that day. What are your thoughts on that, the randomness, the directedness? What do you see there happening?
I was just shooting wildly. I hate to say that because, other people got hit, but my aim, it was just all a blur of my aim and everything.
Mm.
And apparently, the bullet that hit Reagan did first ricochet off the limousine.
Yeah. Were you
But
not, were you not a good shot? Had you not practiced a lot? What was going
I
on?
practiced a little, but no, I'm not. I can't in any way say it was a great shot. No.
What fascinated me about your book, John, was you say, I didn't know this. I don't know if this is people are aware of this, but please tell the story about when you first arrived, you were actually planning to shoot him upon his arrival. Can you talk about that?
Well, the entourage pulled up, and he got out of the limousine, and he started wave. He waved briefly at the crowd, and it looked like he was waving right at me, and it kind of startled me. And I think I even waved back to him, and he went on into the building, and that's why it didn't happen right then.
So you were planning to shoot, but he smiled at you. Did that kind of disarm you?
And kind of waved at me. Yeah, I mean, he probably. I mean, I don't think he actually saw me, but in my mind, he looks like he was waving at me.
Did you see that as a sign that maybe you shouldn't do what you were planning to do, or you just thought, no,
No,
I'll come back later?
no, I just. It was a sign that I shouldn't do it right then.
And then, of course, there are similarities to me with Mark David Chapman. I believe he similarly had John autograph an album earlier before he did later.
Right. There's a picture of John Lennon signing his album. You know, just a few hours before the murder.
What role did John Lennon's death play in your planning or thought process? Did it speed it up, give you hesitation, anything?
It sent me over the edge. Really, it was a huge thing when John was killed. It kind of just sent me over the edge to where I never came back. I was just so devastated by what happened with John Lennon.
You were a fan.
I was a huge fan. Yes.
Did it propel you or make you think I need to do this too, or did it have no impact on your plans?
Actually, it had kind of a funny thing happen to me because I could kind of relate to Mark David Chapman because we had a lot of things in common, um, and it kind of unnerved me that I had so much in common with Chapman. So it did not make me want to stop what I was doing, but it just kind of unnerved me a little.
Now, I believe in the book you talk about you also had got close to Senator Kennedy. That was another option as well, Ted Kennedy in the Senate.
I just went to his office one day at the Capitol, and I did not see him. But I just had the feeling that I shouldn't be doing this. You know, I didn't have anything for or against Kennedy. It was just I went to his office one day, and I believe in February of '81.
Without a gun.
To be honest, I can't remember.
Got it. But so that was a range of possibilities. You were kind of apolitical. You wanted to shoot somebody prominent. Was there anybody else on the list, or like a pope or
No,
governor or anybody else?
that was about it. That was. I mean, I told in my book everything that I was doing, and that was it.
Yeah. And your music, I know that for a time in the book, you went to Hollywood. You were trying to get a music career going. Talk about that a little bit and how that maybe that disappointment led into the things you eventually did.
Well, I was in Hollywood in 1976 trying to pursue a musical career, and that's when I saw Taxi Driver out. It was out in Hollywood. But yeah, I was 21 years old and pursuing a music career. Nothing developed because I wasn't going about it the right way. But 5 years later, in 1981, I made a last ditch attempt to go to Hollywood. I flew out to Hollywood, and I got to the airport, and I was so sick at that point I couldn't really function properly. So I got on a Greyhound bus, went to the bus station, got on a Greyhound bus, and took a cross country trip to D.C. I ended up in D.C. on March 29th of '81. And of course, the next day was the shooting.
Right. And really, you were not there for that purpose. That sort of developed. Was it the morning of the shooting you saw in the paper that he was going to be nearby?
Right. The one of the papers had his daily schedule for that day, and I saw the schedule that he'd be at the Hilton that day.
I mean, you must have a lot of feelings about the Secret Service that they really dropped the ball over and over again in this situation. No, I mean, first of all, publicizing the president's schedule daily in the paper. What in the world were they thinking?
I don't know. I just we're talking 1981 when I think things were a little bit more lax with everything, airports and everything. Um, so I don't want to blame the Secret Service. I just think things back then were very different with security wise.
Yeah. I met the agent, by the way, McCarthy, last year before last at our premiere. Not our premiere. We did a premiere in Illinois, and there he was. He was a police chief after his time getting shot. What was your? I mean, did you have any feelings about? First of all, did you notice any of the folks? I mean, is it just a blur for you? Do you remember anything from the moment of impact?
No, I think I remember dropping the gun and I was immediately pounced on by a lot of people. So I didn't see the resulting impact.
And of course, while we're critical of the Secret Service in one respect, and in one respect, the training of McCarthy in particular, where he literally spread eagled in front of you to take that bullet. Did you ever get a chance to see that later? And what were your thoughts about what he did to protect the president?
Oh, I've seen it many times since then, but yeah, he was heroic in my opinion.
Yeah. And how did you feel? I mean, I'm sure you've had feelings over the years as you regained your sanity. How did you feel about, the other victims, and how did you cope with what happened, what you did?
I feel very badly for what happened. That's another reason I wrote the book is 'cause people think I don't have remorse for what I did. I have great remorse for what I did, and I'm so sorry that I put them through what I did with my shooting, and yeah, I have tremendous remorse for what I did.
And in terms of the book, what made you decide to write the book at this time after all these years? Were there thoughts of writing one earlier? Were you not allowed to? How did it come about?
Right. I mean, for many, many years, I had court orders to where I couldn't even speak to the media. I couldn't do any press of any kind, much less write a book. So after I got my unconditional release in 2022, I started having some ideas of maybe writing a memoir. And then in early 2025, a local writer here in this area, contacted me and said, "Would you be interested in writing a memoir? Collaborating on a memoir?" And I thought about it for, I guess, for a day or two. Then I thought, yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. So we collaborated.
What was your writing process with him like?
Well, we just met over and over and talked on the phone dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and I just told my story from beginning to end, and it's all in the book.
Yeah, the book is fascinating. Look, there are a lot of parents out there. Again, thinking about your parents, they did everything right. It seemed like. How do you talk to parents about that? What could they have done anything differently with you? I feel like they were there for you. You had friends of theirs advising them to have tough love and not be so kind and gracious. But did they do everything right, and something's just unavoidable?
I would say they did everything right. My father was a pretty stern guy back then, and they did not support my music career. I don't think it didn't really help me in any way with that. But
So it would have been nice if they'd been a little more supportive of that part of your life.
I can't use that as an excuse for what I did. I'm just saying, overall, they were very supportive. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you'd had the correct connection in Hollywood in 1976, you could have had an entirely different life and career. If your demo had reached the right person and people had liked it, you'd be in a different spot today, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I was out there giving my demo tape to a lot of different people. I walked into Capitol Records, the famous Capitol Records building,
Yep.
Hollywood and Vine, and I just didn't do it the right way. I just handed my tape to a receptionist. I said, "Please give this to the A&R guy." Of course, that's not the way to do it. So,
Right.
yeah, it just didn't work out.
Did you have any interesting encounters in Hollywood while you were there, while you were here?
Um, yeah, I mean, this is back in the days when Hollywood was very seedy. Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard, very seedy area. Lots of prostitutes and porn shops, and I mean, I don't think it's that way anymore, but it was quite a place in the late '70s.
And you write in the book about a number of prostitutes that you visited at that time. Was that a pretty common thing for you?
Yeah, I was 21 years old, and yeah, that was it. Kind of, kind of at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah. What about, did you go to a lot of concerts while you were out in LA?
I didn't go to any.
Mm. And who was your, I mean, obviously, I think it seems to me that hearing your music, Bob Dylan is an influence. Who are the major influences in your career musically, in your life musically?
Definitely the Beatles. They were always my favorite group and influenced me greatly. But yeah, also Bob Dylan, Neil Young, and of course others. But yeah, if you listen to my music, I think you'll hear a lot of Bob Dylan and maybe some Beatles influence. Also Hank Williams Sr.
Uh-huh. So a little bit of country as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you were in 1976, President Reagan would just have been left the governorship running for president. Is there anything that goes back in what was your first reflections on him? When did you first become aware of him? It doesn't seem like, again, he was the target, but when did you become aware of him and way back when?
Growing up, um, I was aware of Reagan because he was doing things on TV that I would see him on TV. I think he was the host of something called Death Valley Days,
Right?
and I think I used to watch that show as a kid. So I was aware of Reagan, even as a kid. So when he started getting political, I knew I didn't follow him, but I knew what he was doing.
Mm.
And then started running for president, my family got really involved in trying to support him.
So even back in 76, your parents were supporting him?
I'm sure. I mean, I can't say exactly, but they just they really they love Reagan. That's all I can say.
Now, afterwards, what were the conversations like with your mom and dad after the shooting? I mean, once things settled down, what kind of conversations did you guys have once you began to kind of regain your mind about the shooting?
Well, we didn't actually ever. I mean, it's hard to believe, but we didn't ever actually talk about the shooting.
Is that right?
No, we did not. We to this day, I can say that we never talked about the shooting. We talked to just family matters and
Mm.
helping me get through my days, being locked up, and but we never discussed the shooting.
I mean, even in your later years with you and your mom sitting around the living room, you never discussed it.
No,
Wow. That's amazing. You're right. That is amazing because I just think it would come up like, "Hey, why did you do it, honey?" But she never asked that.
no, never a question like that.
Wow. And you mentioned your parents being very religious. That was more later in life that they became that way, right?
No, growing up, we went to church every Sunday, and my father was religious all through my childhood, growing up. So we would go to Sunday church, and I would go to Sunday school, and he just got more religious as time went by.
I see. And what about for your life? Has religion or God played a role in your life post the shooting?
Absolutely, I'm a strong believer in God. I'm a Christian, and I think the reason I have survived all this is with God. He has seen me through a lot of ups and downs, and He's responsible for me surviving everything that I've survived.
Was there a particular moment that you came to salvation? Was it after the shooting, before the shooting?
Not really a particular moment. Just I just don't think I would have made it without God or Jesus.
Hmm.
Because I had to deal with so much at St. Elizabeth's Hospital. and I just don't think I would have made it without God.
And is there any kind of a church life in St. Elizabeth? And since you left St. Elizabeth, do you have any kind of a church life?
I think it'd be kind of disruptive if I went to church now, but I still pray, and I still am spiritual.
And you consider yourself a Christian?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And your music, you've had a real challenge getting your music out there. Venues book you, then cancel you. What's the latest there? And do you see any hope of getting out there?
I have about 60 or 65 songs of mine on Spotify and all the streaming sites. These are original songs of mine. So if anybody wants to hear my music, they can go to Spotify or Apple or iTunes or any of the other ones and listen to my music. As far as performing live, that's where I've run into uh, a wall because the concert venue promoters, the owners of the venues, don't want to hire me, I guess, for security reasons. And I've had a number of concerts canceled where the concert gets scheduled and they sell the tickets. And some of these shows sold out, and then the rug got pulled out from under me because the venue owner would cancel the show, and this has happened over and over.
Now, this may sound like a crazy question, but do you collect a Social Security check?
No,
So you really have, what is your source of income then? How do you survive?
I sell my little cat paintings. I sell paintings throughout the year. I don't, I certainly don't make a lot of money, but it's enough just to like pay my bills.
Is that all the only income you have?
That's it.
Wow.
I was not left an inheritance or any of that. You know, I had a trust fund up until the age of 25 when I did the shooting, but all my trust fund money went into the trial.
For the lawyers.
Yeah, and the doctors.
How did you feel? I mean, obviously, you must have felt like you let your parents down, but how about your dad? How was your relationship with your dad post shooting, and how did you feel about that?
Well, he mellowed over the years, and we started to get along. We used to fight, bicker a lot, but as time went on, he like in his 70s, he mellowed quite a bit, and we were able to communicate well and get along well. He died kind of young. He died at 82. Um, he got throughout his 70s. We were getting along just fine.
And he was in the oil business, correct?
Yes, he was.
In Colorado and Texas.
Right.
And in terms of you have family members, you have brothers and sister, a brother and sister. Do you keep in touch? Do you have nieces and nephews? What is that like?
I keep in touch with my brother and sister. Yeah, frequently. Um, see, I always want to know what's going on with them. They want to know what's going on with me, and we keep in touch. I have two nephews, two nieces. So yeah, I mean, my parents are deceased, but the rest of the family, we're still have a tight bond.
Yeah. Now, you worked really, really hard to get out of St. Elizabeth's. Why, in light of the fact that you have no income, wouldn't it have been easier just to stay there? What made you work so hard to want to get out?
I wanted freedom, obviously. I mean, I never gave up. I always had the hope that I would one day gain my freedom. I had so many people over the years tell me, John, you'll never get out. But I always held hope. And as I said, I think I had God with me throughout everything. And with the help of a great lawyer, Barry Levine, um, I finally got my freedom.
What was it like inside? I mean, what made you feel that there wasn't freedom inside? Just because you couldn't leave the physical premises? But I mean, it was a pretty good way to live, though, right? Compared to fending for yourself financially, for instance, or meals, or any thoughts on that?
I would not say living in a mental hospital is a good way to live. I
Okay.
mean, I kind of surprised you made that comment.
Just in the fact that you have to make a living now, you have to, as you said, you have to sell paintings to live, right?
But that's okay. I'd rather be doing this, with
Got it.
my freedom.
Right, right. And what is a typical day like for you these days?
I have two cats that I take care of. They take up a good deal of my time, but I do things that everybody else does. I go to the grocery store, I do my laundry, I watch TV, I read, write songs, post songs on the streaming sites, do my cat paintings.
And do you have a kind of a routine in terms of your paintings and your songs? Is it whenever the urge hits you, or do you have
Yeah,
like times of day?
it's more when the urge hits me. I it just I don't come up with a song every day. No.
Yeah. What advice would you have for young people? We have a lot of mental illness in our society these days. I think it's rapidly increasing. What is your advice for somebody who may have been maybe in your circumstance of just feeling unsettled in different ways?
Don't get us. Do not get estranged from your family, and keep the family ties, because that's what happened to me. Is I got estranged from my family, and that led to isolation and depression and delusions. So do everything you can to keep your family ties, and just try and if you have some faith, try and have a faith in God, or with me, that's what saw me through.
Mm. And I know you had a relationship in prison. Or not in prison, at St. Elizabeth's. Do you still hold out hope to get married and have a family one day, or is that not possible? Is that not in your thought process?
It's not really in my thought process. I'm 71 years old now, so I'm kind of up there in age. But I mean, I don't have the beliefs. I mean, I just don't think I'll be getting married, or I mean, maybe married, but certainly not children.
Hmm. And I believe in the book you talk about, I think it was in your book, you talked about getting letters. You've gotten a lot of sort of fan mail, if I can say it that way, over the years. What has that been like? What was it like in the early years? What is it like today in terms of the correspondence you get from people?
Right after my trial, when I arrived at St. Elizabeth's, I was getting over 100 letters every day, and so many letters that I just couldn't even deal with it all, because so many people from around the world were writing to me. Of course, that lessened over the years, but I tried to answer some of the letters, but there was just no way I could respond to everybody.
And I mean, you get proposals and women who wanted to meet you. I think you got all that, right?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
What
did.
good.
Yeah, I had proposals of marriage from people I never even met. Um, it's just that's what happens when somebody becomes infamous real fast.
That's a little weird, right? I mean, did you even find that weird at the time?
Maybe not at the time because I was, in my illness, but now I do. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's so what about these days? Do you still get letters? People find you these days?
very, very few. I get some, but not much. Of course, now it's all email. People can find me through email. Yeah.
Yeah, you had some problems over the years getting in trouble because you corresponded with some folks, right? Can you talk briefly about that? Certain people?
Um, back in the 1980s, I had a brief correspondence with Ted Bundy, the serial killer Ted Bundy, and I had a correspondence with Squeaky Fromme, who was a follower of Charles Manson. Um, so yeah, I mean, my judgment was just kind of not even existent back then, because I was writing to a lot of people I shouldn't have been writing to.
So I didn't realize that you weren't allowed to speak to media. When did that lift and be allowed to speak to media or other people, I guess?
In 2022,
So until 2022, you couldn't speak to anybody.
not really.
Is that right? Wow.
I would have violated a court order.
Right. And obviously, you couldn't even write President Reagan a letter during those 35 years.
I had a court order that I couldn't contact any of the victims.
If he'd been successful to meet you, or if you were able to write him, what would you have said to him?
And I'm so sorry for what I did, and it was never anything personal. I thought you were great. I think you're a great man, and I just would ask for his forgiveness.
I read in your book that you had, I guess you saw the movie, right?
Which movie?
The Reagan movie that we did.
Actually, I did not.
You didn't, but I think you had mentioned that the actor who played you wasn't credited in the credits. I think you had mentioned that we had an oversight on our part, I guess. But you mentioned that in the book, so I thought maybe you'd seen it.
I don't think I've seen the movie. I think I will someday, but I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah. I mean, how obviously you're going to be remembered for what you did, but if you could change the narrative, how would you want to be remembered differently than history will probably remember you?
As someone who changed over the years and became a good person instead of the bad person that I was in 1981. I had a dark heart in 1981, and I've overcome that, and I think I'm a good citizen of Virginia and in the United States now, and I would also like to be remembered for my music, all the songs that I've put out, and some of my artwork, and just anything. But what happened in 1981, I just want to be remembered for positive things.
What lessons did you learn that stayed with you during your time at St. Elizabeth's?
Never give up. That was the main one. I had so many people telling me, John, you might as well give up because you'll never get out. And I would say to people, never give up.
And I think today, again, I don't know this is our first time to meet, but you seem to have kind of an even-tempered voice. I believe you're on 2 medications. Is that correct?
Right.
And how do those help you? If you were not to take those, what would happen, or how do you feel it helping you, them helping you?
I can't say. I mean, who can say?
Right.
But I've been on them for many years, and I've only been improving for many years. So, I mean, they're helpful, and I don't really have side effects from them. So I continue to take them voluntarily now.
So you're not required. There's nobody that checks you. This is on your own that you take these.
I have no court over me anymore. Everything I do now is just voluntary.
Hmm. And the years ahead, however many years you have left on this planet, what do you hope to do? We talked about your music. What else? Are there other things you hope to accomplish?
Just continue to live a peaceful life, and hopefully my music will catch on even more. I also have a YouTube channel. If anybody wants to watch me play my guitar and sing my songs, so I would just hope that I could do more with my music and maybe make some live appearances somewhere. That would be my dream.
What has the response been from media? I haven't seen a whole lot of interviews. What has that been like?
Well, I get a lot of requests, but I don't do a lot of interviews.
I see.
I get a ton of podcast requests, and but I did the Megyn Kelly show a few weeks ago.
Right.
I did a CNN interview about a year ago. So I do some of them, but I turn down most interview requests.
So there's a lot that you don't do.
Oh yes, a whole lot.
Yeah. And just in terms of, are there any restrictions on your travel? You can go wherever you want to in the world?
I can go to Timbuktu if I want to.
And have you done any international travel?
No. I mean, I can't leave my 2 cats for one thing. I'm very attached to my cats, so I don't do a lot of travel.
It must be a challenge to build a friends circle. Have you built any kind of a circle of friends around you since you've been up?
I have some friends, yes.
Mm-hmm. And during that time when you were at St. Elizabeth's, what was it like day-to-day life? Could you listen to music? Did you follow what was happening in the world? Was it just normal in terms of your interactions with the outside world, other than communication with people directly?
Well, they had TVs and a pool table, and the news is always on the TV, so I was able to keep up with current events pretty easily.
Hmm.
I would read the Washington Post, which we would get on the ward every day.
And did you have computer access when the world went digital?
Not really. I mean, I was of course aware of it, but I personally didn't have access now.
What was going through your head the day that President Reagan died?
I just was sad because I thought was a great man and had a great life, and I felt a sense of sadness.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because I just even in your conversation now, I don't hear any animus, and yet you came so close to taking his life. It's really a conundrum for those of us who are trying to figure it out. But I guess to try to understand mental illness, there's a reason it's mental illness. We can't really figure it out, can we?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it was a completely mentally ill reason for what I did. 'Cause, yeah, I never had anything against President Reagan.
Yeah, yeah, and I've heard that. I feel like that's sincere. I've heard it numerous times from you. And just in terms of kind of the overall attitude toward mental health in this country, what thoughts do you have? You've obviously seen it from the inside. How are we doing as a country in treating mental health, even what you've been through in those years when you were at St. Elizabeth's?
Well, I just think there's a lot of people that get put out on the street from mental hospitals that shouldn't really be put out on the streets, but there's been this effort to, deinstitutionalize people. But even during my years, I saw patients get released that I personally thought shouldn't have been released because they were still quite ill. And one other thing is, after my trial of being found not guilty by reason of standing, that's now a very hard verdict to get because of my trial. There's this outrage in the country because of my verdict, and now very very few people are successful in getting a NGI verdict.
So, I mean, in your perfect world, what would be the appropriate punishment for what you did? How would you have handled it, let's say, if you were on the outside looking in?
Well, I do know I was quite ill, and I think it was a right verdict of what happened. Had I been found guilty, I would still be in prison. I'm sure, probably in supermax. But I think it was the right verdict because I was quite ill and not responsible for what I did.
But you would have, when would you have released, when would you have recommended release for you?
Well, I was ready. I personally was ready for release a long time ago. I mean, even my judge said if I had not committed the crime that I did, I would have been released from the hospital years and years and years ago. But it was the crime that kept me in for so long.
So in your perfect world or in your construct, you would have released yourself 2095, something like that, after a certain period of time?
I can't give you a year, but just long before I did get released, I was ready for release.
Got it. And you were arrested in 81, so 10, 15, something like that. What about I'm sure you get asked this question as well, but what about Jodie Foster today? I mean, obviously you're free of some of those delusions, but what are your thoughts about her and her subsequent work?
I just wish Jodie Foster well. I don't really see her movies, but I wish her well, and I know she's doing quite well. And that's all I can say is I wish Jodie well, and hope she has a good life.
And by the way, I think if I recall from the book, she could have been a potential target too, right? In this delusional state you were in.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she definitely could have been a target. I just, it just fate went the other way. But she could have been a target.
Right. But you didn't have a gun, I think, when you went to visit her campus, right?
I may have, but as fate turns out, it was Reagan instead of her.
Yeah, I can only imagine in my mind that moment when President Reagan enters the hotel, and almost like his smile, his charm offensive. I think you said you reached into your coat, but you couldn't quite get to the gun in time, right? That,
Right.
that's like an incredible movie moment that I wish I had known about, because that's pretty powerful. And I know you're not sure if he was smiling at you or not, but whatever it was, you felt like that smile kept you from doing it at that moment.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's been so interesting hearing your stories, and I think that all of us, or most of us, I should say, are grateful that it worked out the way it did. The doctor that day, as I mentioned to you, Dr. Benjamin Aaron, he spoke to him. He was one of the advisors on the film as well, and he felt like that was his purpose in life, was to be there that day. And of course, as you know, the Secret Service agent, his name escapes me right now, he had watched a movie with Reagan a Secret Service movie, and felt like that's what caused him to want to become a Secret Service agent. And then
Right.
he left the agency and became a pastor afterwards. So it just felt like a lot of people had a sense of destiny on that day, I guess, including you, in a different way. But I think most of us are glad it turned out the way it did, and I think you are especially.
Oh yes, very much so.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you for your time today. It's great to visit with you. And the book is out, and we'll put it in the show notes, and people can read your story and follow you.
It's available on Amazon if anybody wants to buy it.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much.